All right, so what is the three body problem? People have probably been hearing this on and off for a few years now when it really got popular, but this is, well, it is the first book in a series of books by the Chinese author Lo Zixin and Liu Cixin, however you want to say it, doesn't really matter. The point of it is that this is a really popular, really popular sci-fi series that took China by storm. And basically, this is the first book in a three-part series, and the first book is called The Three-Body Problem, but the whole series is just called, in general, it's known as The Three-Body Problem. And this book, or series of books, is set partially during China's Cultural Revolution, and it is a giant sci-fi tale that was partially inspired when Liu heard how China had launched its first satellite into orbit back in the 60s and 70s, and this became a hugely popular book series, and now it is set to become a TV series as well. But not just one TV series, it's going to be two TV series. So Tencent, really big Chinese tech company, has the rights in China, and then Netflix has the rights in the US. So Tencent's series is going to premiere in 2022, most likely. And Netflix's has only just been greenlit, so it'll be a few years before it comes out or we even hear very much about it. But the point is, we have a good old-fashioned TV duel going on. And this is going to be very interesting. So from the Chinese side, get ready to hear all sorts of critiques about, for example, the racial makeup of the American movie. People are already complaining in China that there are only 30% people of Asian descent in the film. But of course, if you had any Japanese or non-Chinese Asians in the film, that would also be a very bad, probably, from the Chinese perspective. But even just the fact there's an American adaptation at all doesn't sit well with everybody, even though it should be expected, and it increases the prominence and notoriety and reach of the story. Just listen to this one comment from a Weibo post. It's sort of a microblog post in China in response to the Tencent trailer of the series that just came out. So, quote, "Three Body is a story full of Chinese elements told by we Chinese from our Chinese perspective and ways of thinking, to express Chinese people's values, worldview, and view of the universe. These things are very hard for foreigners to express. Only we are able to do it," end quote. So this is not a really uncommon perspective in this moment of extreme nationalism and increasing isolation in China, but it's good to sort of hear and know that that is a perspective that exists. But in the end, we'll see how good the US series is. So Netflix is definitely putting in time and money into it. It hired the showrunners first from Game of Thrones, who've been kind of floating around for a while. These guys have been floating around for a while, trying to find something meaty they can get their hands in. And Netflix also hired a guy named Derek Tsong to direct the series, or at least part of the series. So he's a Chinese director who should appeal to Chinese audiences, but he's also from Hong Kong. So you really never know. There could be some sort of flame up. There could be a whole thing that turns into a crisis just around this, because the Chinese population, the Chinese government are very touchy right now. And this is actually a very sensitive issue, this really prominent work. So Netflix definitely wants to appeal to the Chinese market. That is really clear. But the truth is, there are two series for two different markets. Netflix isn't available in China. So people in China aren't going to see it. And if anything happens that suggests there's something wrong with it, or it gets embroiled in some sort of political issue or scandal, it's going to be wiped from the conversation in China on the internet anyway. But the other side is that the vast majority of Americans also won't watch the Chinese version or even really know that it exists. They're just going to assume that the American version is the version and kind of leave it at that. But what's really interesting here is that these two series are going to crystallize differences between the US and China, both sort of in a general sense and in sort of a more specific sense. So the first thing you'll probably see is the American product. So just watch for the stylistic differences. And, once you get to see both, just watch how issues are presented, and so many cultural differences and preferences will be on display everywhere. It's going to be a great way to scope out real fundamental differences between the two countries, as well as what can and can't be said, and as well as just the nature of some of these entertainment products. And why the entertainment products can show us all this is because they're trying to appeal to what people already like. They fit molds and patterns that are really well established, and China is really trying to push its creative film industry into a more prominent, impressive direction, even though it's more propagandistic. So we're going to really see something very interesting here. So one important thing is that there is a major censorship problem in China. This is obviously something that applies everywhere, but it really applies in movies and films, and it is definitely going to apply to this really famous book series that is now being turned into a TV series. To be clear, this is a book by a really great Chinese writer who is in a very bad system. There was a lot of self-censoring going on in his series in the first place, and the trauma of the Cultural Revolution, which was a very miserable low point in Chinese history in the basically early to mid 1970s, this is a key part of the story. And even today, the Cultural Revolution is a very touchy subject. There was recently a major, not really a post, more of an essay that came out that was arguing that we basically need to batten down the hatches, and was really bringing up things that felt very Cultural Revolution-esque in China. And there was a whole back and forth between sort of government publications and other authors trying to say, no, we do need to be more independent and this, and we need to figure out more about what China is doing and not believe or follow America or the West or whatever. But the idea that we were going to go back, or China was going to go back to the Cultural Revolution in certain ways, was something that even the Communist Party wanted to tamp down on, because this is the low point in modern Chinese history, up till now at least. So the Chinese series that we're going to see on TV may be really authentic to the book, but we have to remember that the writer couldn't say everything that he wanted to say, right? If you're a creative fiction author and you live in an authoritarian system, and you lived through something like the Cultural Revolution, which was insane and oppressive and repressive and destructive in so many ways, you naturally sort of reclude into your own little world. And the world that he created is one that we all get to sort of watch and kind of enjoy. But there is a lot of natural censorship that just went on through all of this, because it is so touchy in China. These issues, and also even a lot of these works, there is a lot of Chinese pride involved in this series. And it comes out in very weird ways, because this is basically the only really well-known and widely admired Chinese book series. And, it may become a very popular and well-known TV series as a result. It may spawn other things you don't know. So this is an extreme point of pride, to almost the point of possessiveness in China, because China is always looking for grand Chinese people, products, companies, whatever. And it wants them to succeed and be acknowledged by the rest of the world. This is a key part of what China thinks it means to really reach the top of the stage in the world, right? To have everyone watching its products and watching its companies, watching its government. This is really, really important. But at the same time, it can't have full control over this story. It really can't expect Tencent's product to appeal to everyone, because they're going to be really, really tight. It might be a very authentic series to what the book said, but it may not reach some of the deeper things that the book didn't get to, the book didn't want to present in a certain way, whatever you want to say. The thing you're going to get in the Tencent version is something that will be a Chinese series for Chinese people within the context of living in the People's Republic. So that is the constraints that Tencent is working with. And this is part of the reason that you even have a Netflix version in the first place. If you want to really push this to the rest of the world, you're going to need someone else to do it that can sort of try and tailor this to the rest of the world. But just the fact that China has to do this, or the book series, or however the rights came out, the fact they had to do this doesn't sit well in the first place. They would love it. China would love it if the Tencent version became a world-beating blockbuster all around the world, and everybody was just astounded at the quality of the Chinese book and the quality of the Chinese TV series and the actors and the directors and all the production values, all of that. That would be the real coup, the real win. But that's not what we're getting. We're going to get something very different. So who's going to win? Like, which is going to be the best series, the better series? Is this some sort of a real battle between U.S. filmmaking and Chinese filmmaking? Well, it's not really a question of better or worse. The truth is, this is going to be a Netflix version for American and foreign audiences, and there's going to be a Chinese version for the Chinese audience. And Americans are going to like the Netflix version, most likely, unless you're like a real diehard film or book buff or something, and you like the Chinese version more, and you kind of scope it out, and you're really invested. And Chinese people are going to like the Chinese one more, both because they can really only access that one, and, of course, because of this pride element. But most people won't even see the other one, right? In China, they know about the Netflix version. There's going to be a lot of back and forth comparison because it is, like I said, an important cultural touchstone and landmark, this book, and the creation of the series, and the popularity of the series, and the potential popularity of the future and further popularity of this book as a result of the series. But truth is, most people, especially Americans, aren't going to even know really about the other Chinese series, probably won't watch it unless they really like it. But now you, after listening to this, get the opportunity to see both, and not only watch a great story, but learn about two of the most powerful countries in the world in the process, how they make movies, how they present stories, what their people want, what their entertainment industries are focused on. And that is actually a benefit just by itself. So it can be really cool. So now that you know, watch both, read the series too, because it is really good. A lot of really, really great and dedicated and obsessed sci-fi lovers think it's a really excellent series, so people should definitely check it out. But if you want to hear more about the US, China, and the world, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to this channel. And if you enjoyed the episode, like it, hit the button, and so more people can see it. And as always, comment or message me with any thoughts or questions you have.